All right. Is this thing on? Test, test, test. Live streaming checklist and create thumbnail, open up some windows, close all the private stuff, and I think I'm live. Go ahead and, all right, we see people coming on board here. Why is it not green? This. All right. Where do we start? Yes, I'm live. Unmessaging me. Cool. So he starts like this, you know. It has been a tough few days. So good news is lots of things are getting done. Lots of things happening here at the office. That does not include a lot of videos, unfortunately. I wish it did. That would obviously be better for all of you. But the good news is it more has to do with things that are here that I can't show you. But it's all about the money. We have had just a plethora, like a thank you for everyone on YouTube who hired me. And also just some of the local jobs that have all kind of come together all at the same time, which has been awesome. So I quit babbling about it. Short answer is, you know, there's some very large bids, well, reasonably large bids that we put out there. We just closed, hopefully, on another one today. There'll be more stuff for video. There are large infrastructure projects, a lot of infrastructure builds, which is actually me taking a selfie at the potential location of the infrastructure build. But until bids are accepted, I can't talk about, well, I'm going to omit talking about it. But I think we're pretty much going to get the job. That's what it's looking like now. And it's more than a six-figure bid. So there's a lot of projects that are going into this. It's quite large. And so when we do bids that scale, we make sure we detail things out a whole lot more than usual. So yeah, you got to be careful when you're doing that. And I also had a really good conversation. We do consulting, as I've mentioned before at the end of each video. And one of the things that I have fun with is all the consulting is helping people avoid mistakes I made early in business and getting people to understand some of the concepts related to business and how it applies to IT. And of course, this is all coming through my perspective. Take that with a grain of salt. It's not that I'm trying to say anything like if you want to do it like me, then that's the advice I get. If you think I'm an idiot and run my business bad because you think the products I choose are awful, XYZ reason, that's fine too. That's going to be a different conversation at that point. So that means you don't want to do it like me. Anyways, the other side of this is called Pwnage. So see here, I'm just following everyone. Hello from Sydney, Colorado. Early vlog Thursday, kind of. I don't know about really early. I wanted to do it like at 4. But it took longer than expected to review the bid. So yeah, there's just like, hey, Pascal from Belgium. Probably my furthest away person I've seen comment. So I don't know, Australia. I don't know which further away, Australia or Belgium. I think Belgium's probably a little closer than Australia. So, going shopping to Micro Center. Awesome. Yeah, the pilgrimage to Micro Center. I also titled this video, though, Pwnage, because I was talking a little bit about, at the beginning, like bidding stuff, but now we can also talk about Pwnage if someone's interested. And I'll actually pull up the tweet from Troy Hunt, for those of you that don't know. This was a discussion that popped up in the forums as well. And it is some of the things I want to talk about, like right away. Let's talk about data breaches, because they're really a big deal, obviously, and someone posted this in the forums as well. Let me see. I've been slowly transitioning my business to run it the same way as Tom. I've been getting more business and getting jobs approved a lot quicker. Hey, awesome. That's what I like to hear. Efficiency is so important when you're doing these things. I tend to run into more and more people that overthink it. And you know what? I'll bring up a forum post because this is a discussion topic currently going into forums. And by the way, the forums are a place to help further these discussions on things. And I'm encouraging my staff when they have time, they're going to be answering too. And I haven't seen Schmarvin join us yet on the live stream, but he usually is here on the live stream. This right here, Schmarvin outlined some of the things and issues with SolarWinds, and Kyle specifically because he does the patch management. is addressing some of these things on here. I don't mind putting a lot of this in discussion for Q&A. So for those of you that want to engage more on like how we do MSP, how we do this, I don't understand why it's almost like a secret sauce that these people think MSP is. I'm very open about it. I mean, granted, I know some of them, their secret sauces, they always want to hit you and charge you for consulting because their only business model is consulting about it, because they have since sold it. I'm not picking on those people. That's how they make a living. That's fine. I'm not begrudging them who do that. But I think the more knowledge sharing you do, the better off you are. That's kind of my general opinion on how a lot of this goes to me. So I don't mind talking about any of this. Pricing I don't ever want to give out pricing for just a couple of reasons. Pricing, and I've said this before, we've determined it variable based on clients. So you work out deals and negotiate how you sell it. I'm not selling a commoditized product. I'm selling a solution for controlling their IT system. So it's not like everyone gets exactly the same price, because not everyone's the same business. Not everyone has the same needs. So if I threw out their exact pricing, it wouldn't make a lot of sense. We don't really have a lot of clients using Azure AD at the moment. I don't remember how many do. Hello from NYC to the inventor of fog computing. Oh yeah, someone's seen my post. But you know, the Azure AD, I don't know how many clients are using it. It's a few. I know it's becoming more popular. I think going forward, it's going to be something, or some similar thing is going to be very popular in the future. I've seen someone having a bunch of controversy about the end of MSP. It's always the end of something and the beginning of something else. One thing's for sure, and I've said this a few times before, nobody, not in 2018, and I can repeat it in 2019, nobody's writing software for Microsoft Windows anymore. It isn't happening. It's not what any software developers do. Now, people are doing maintenance programs for Windows. There's still tooling software for Windows, and we know legacy takes a super long time to get out of the market. But people aren't writing, the new startups, the new whatever XYZ companies are not writing stuff for Windows. So that's going to represent a change in our market, and you have to either be prepared for that market change or you're going to adapt. That what cannot change dies. That's how business works. It's generally a survival of the fittest type thing. So if you don't adapt to the changing market, you don't get to be in business anymore. I made a lot of money fixing VCRs. Not anymore. I don't fix VCRs anymore. I had a company that fixed VCRs. That goes back to 2004. VCRs went away. So and then we adapted because we did fix DVD players, but then DVD players became $35 at Walmart, and we didn't fix DVD players anymore. So it's like anything else. And the MSP market's going to change. The computer market has dramatically changed from what it used to be. The one thing that won't change is selling knowledge and leveraging knowledge you have about something. That's always, if you're on that side of it, that bar goes up a lot of what knowledge you have to have, but leveraging knowledge is always a good bet. If you think of it from a business perspective, you know, this is one of the reasons lawyers or doctors make money. Doctors don't make money off selling scalpels or the margin by which they charge for scalpels. They make money on the knowledge it took to get to be a doctor. The lawyers don't make money how many pieces of paper they print. They make money on leveraging their knowledge of the law to represent you. These are knowledge-based economies because they're service. If you think about that from the computer world, I think you're going to do a little better. Let's talk about some password pwnage. So the 773 million record collection data breach. And I'm not going to read you all of this, but there's just so much of this breaching going on. And Azure was running 20% of their VMs. Probably the Azure stuff is going to significantly grow. There's not reasons for people to have on-premise stuff. And I think that's where people need to adapt. If they're not thinking about it that way, they really need to be. That is the future. You would be correct in saying on-prem servers are dying. They're too expensive to manage. They don't make any sense in many, many business cases. And look at email as an indicator. No one hosts their own email anymore. I don't have more clients buying new email servers. They're all being moved. And some of these clients have been my clients for 15 years. We put those mail servers in the first time. We put them in the second time when they upgraded. The third time, we're not giving them a new mail server. They're out of the hardware business, as they like to say, and now it's moved to the cloud because that's just a better place to put that. Which, of course, leads us to this and data breaches and things like that in the cloud, because when you consolidate information, you make it a big target, and then you have, like, have I been pwned? Not to mention the cost of power, downtime, everything else. So, yeah, it's better to consolidate. It makes more sense. Well, let's talk about password pwnage. And one of the nice things is if you use LastPass or any password manager of your choice, I'm a LastPass user because it's nice, but whatever the password manager choice, one of the important things is having a unique password and everything. So let's talk about, has my password been pwned? And I guess I probably should pull this up. It's over to, hold on to me, Windows again. Close. I have too many windows open. There we go. We reduced it. I want to make sure I'm at the YouTube window. All right. So, yeah, I recommend learning a little about it if that's where some of the clients are going. The other thing, it all depends on what market you're in, things like that. So, anyways, has my password been pwned? And a lot of you may have seen the password database. Oops. This is the pwned passwords, actually. There we go. Pwned passwords. And what we do is we can throw passwords in here and we can make determinations of whether or not those passwords have been used. Now, when you use a high entropy password, this is a way to find out if that password, if your passwords are all highly unique. This is a way to find out where that breach came from. And this is what gets kind of interesting, is because Troy Hunt's been collecting and making this database. So he's still updating it all the time. The pwned passwords are 551,509,000 real-world passwords previously exposed in data breaches. This is very interesting. And if you're using something like LastPass to generate high-entropy passwords, and you're using a very unique password per site, well, in that case, you end up with a way to figure out who got breached, and maybe find out before they know they got breached. Because if one of these password dumps and you find that password and you know you uniquely only use that password on a site, you know that site was breached. And this is what I see all these companies offering this as a service with dark web scans and things like that. So I said, well, why not look at it as a script? And there's someone wrote a nice little script right here. And I like this one because it was easy to walk through. I'm not like an amazing bash scripting guy. So I cloned this project, downloaded it. And let me change it to a bigger terminal view. And we can check to see if our password's pwned. So let's look at the script real quick and show you what it does. So it's just I haven't used this. I actually just downloaded it. You're seeing how I do my testing in real time. I'll do a separate video on this, like walking it through in more detail. But from here, let's see if we go to, I was going to type my name. So looking up your password have been pwned in a database quite a bit. So the word password is obviously bad. What about password 1? Wow, password 123. I like a lot of people. I was like, password Thomas? Yeah. Wow. So share my terminal settings again. Absolutely. You know what? Do you guys want to see how to install my terminal settings? That's obviously come up a couple times. So let me see. Is there another user? Add user. Is there a user Thomas on this? Let's see. Oh. All right. So here's user Thomas, who has a boring, not really cool looking thing going on here. So how do we get Tom to have the proper same terminal? Pretty easy. We're going to go over here to GitHub. Here, this is what you guys can search in case you can't remember. If you type in Lawrence, GitHub, the first result is the Lawrence Systems GitHub. We go over here to dot files. Clone or download. Go ahead and switch over here, and then we're going to go get clone. Whoops. I'm having trouble typing today, folks. It's the end of the day. We get clone it, cd dot files, and then you can just run the install.sh, and it goes ahead and installs the dot files. Oh, actually, I don't have sudo on this. Normally, if you're doing this, you're going to have sudo, so it's not a big deal. So, you take sudo out of this. You can do this all manually too, by the way. So there's an install file, but if you do lsla, here's all the little alias exports profile. And it's installed. Don't worry about the error messages. The error messages do a few extra things, but that's all you got to do to install the dot files. Now you have the fancy dancy terminal like I have here. Yeah, that's all you, I see not public, how do I install it? You watch me, you just git clone there. And once you're in the dot files, because they're symbolically linked, see how they're symbolic links right here? We go into dot files. If there's a new version, if I do a new version, just go git pull, and it'll pull the new version each time. I do this because this is actually how I use it on my systems. So I'm always pulling the latest version, but if I make an upstream change, I'm going to do it. I got to redo some of my tooling like that. Phil is my spirit animal when it comes to doing this. He posted a forum sometimes, and so is Jay LaCroix. They're both really good at Ansible and things like that. Phil goes a step further because Phil does everything. He has servers build themselves. So instead of just going in a server and you kicking off a command, when he deploys a server, it builds itself, and he doesn't care about a server in terms of destroying it. He'll destroy the server and let Ansible rebuild the server as needed. Jay also has some scripts that he's working on making public. That'll be kind of cool, where all the servers check your Git repositories on some schedule. So every time you make a change, all the servers automatically synchronize that change. Let's say it's a package, or anything like that, and including the way the dot files are set up for this. Now these dot files too, they support things like the way the tmux sessions are and things like that. Oops. So it does the tmuxing, it does everything. So it's kind of cool. Actually, while I'm in here, let's start over from the beginning on that. So where's that? We'll go ahead and clone this repository again. We are not hiring at the moment, but you can feel free to send a resume to resume@lawrencesystems.com. So yeah, I don't have any active open positions, but let us know. I mean, we will eventually be hiring as we get these more projects. There's more work to be done, and we may even be hiring a couple. Depending on the timelines of one of these projects, we may have to hire someone temporarily for that. We do some contract labor occasionally as well. So being in our list is helpful in terms of that. I'm sorry I said that on a live stream because now I'm probably going to get a whole lot of resumes. It's life, whatever else. That's why they go to a separate email address so I can sort things out. That helps my life a lot. Let's go ahead and clone this project right here. Go back over here and we'll git clone. Ooh, is my password pwned? I want you guys to throw me a password out there. Make one up and we'll see how good it is. So how good's your entropy if we did this? So what's a password we should check? I'll make one up right now quickly while we're waiting because I know there's a delay. I know what the popular password was, monkey, for a long time. So yeah, monkey was pwned 980,000 times. That's impressive. But one of the things that came up, and the reason I brought this up isn't just because I think it's fun talking about is my password pwned. What's more fun about it is what I want people to do is pwned. Is people worry about using a website where you put your password in. Well, is this secure? Fair question. Should I put my password in here? Is this scary? And things like that. Well, they're not checking your password as you type it. Troy Hunt's been very clear about how he's using a script to break it. He's got details of how he does it and everything else. Not to mention, he will give you he has torrent files here for the things so you can download them. So you can actually go ahead and download the password files yourself and raw check it against there. But what he's doing is he's password hashing it. And that's why he has an API. So we're going to actually walk through what the API does here. Yes, this is all done in SHA-1 password. So I believe if we do it this way, let me go down the bottom. This is where I know I'm not a scripting expert. OpenSSL, SHA-1. We'll just use the password Thomas. Whoops. What is the parameter it's looking for? Well, it's easier to walk you through it because So it breaks down the password against the SHA-1 for NNF. Then what this is doing is creating the hash prefixes and hash suffixes. So we only need partial part here. And then it looks up your password. And then it makes up the API call. So I'm walking you through, this is beauty of open source because we can watch everything go. This is just on GitHub. Echo password pipe. Oh, okay. Thank you. Someone's way better than me at this. Echo. Well, we'll put Thomas like we were originally. And then pipe it into OpenSSL. You're right. That's what they're doing. You can, my technical chops at Bash, you can see is weak. There we go. So now we have that right there. And you're taking just the piece of that and you're checking it against the database. You're not even sending the entire SHA-1 hash. You only have to send a piece of it to the database there. So see how it breaks out the prefix and suffix, looking up your password. Then you only take the prefix, and that's all this is sending. So curl, range, and then it takes the prefix there and does it. So when we run it, the owned password, put Thomas in there. There's the prefix, and it found it that many times in there. So you're not, if you don't trust Troy Hunt's site, and that's what someone was pointing out in a discussion, because people get their tinfoil hat all like, well, he's working for the government. I've seen some crazy posts on it. I was just like, what? This is so crazy when people do that. But what I think is really cool, I see a lot of companies even using, it looks like someone had posted something in the forums about this, and there's other companies that sell this as a service. Well, let's get a little further. I thought this was really cool. Over on his overview site, let's see, there is a ton of, one, documentation, two, there's all these plugins that people have created. Who's using it? Let's see. Android apps. So there is a ton of Android apps, iOS apps, Windows apps, universal by these. These are all ones linked on here on the Have I by Pwnage when you go to the API site. Like there's websites that are making all these tools. Firefox is getting it integrated. So it's really cool that all these people are in there. And I think this is great because as you go through and want to do this, I even seen somewhere in here, and I didn't look and see how it works. I thought this was a neat idea as well. Checking breach passwords from Active Directory using K and anonymity. I didn't try any of this, but I thought this was actually really cool to check to see your users and what they're doing for password management and whether or not they are using passwords that have been breached. And being able to run that as a sysadmin and understand when a breach is happening is an important part. And to me, this is kind of, I see all these companies advertising dark web scans, but I always ask when a dark web scan, okay, what is the action item? You found your credit card online, you found your, what do you call it online? But how does that really equate to an action item? As I look at the result, I mean, cool. We sent you the scary paper, yours on the dark web, but yeah, what's on the dark web? What was it breached from? Where did it come from? If you're practicing good password hygiene, we'll start with that. You're using highly unique passwords, high entropy on every website. Now you have this really cool active checking you can do where you have an action item. You know, yeah, panic is an action item. That's probably right. Panic is an action item, but your action item becomes I know that that was the password I used on this website per my password manager. That it becomes an action item from there. That's very great. So I thought this was really cool that all these companies are writing this. I just kind of wanted to talk about it for a little bit, but I'm fascinated by it. I think it's great. For those of you, and I'll actually go ahead and add this now. I'm gonna add notes. As we speak, I'll add notes. So this is the password Pwnage site. Because I brought it up at the beginning, here's my GitHub. Maybe I should just leave my GitHub in the description all the time. There we go. All right. Well, they're both been added to the description of this video. So if anyone is looking for this, I don't know how you guys see it or if it gets published in post, but I know in post it will show up for all the people that watch this after the live stream is over. So definitely cool there. What are some other topics we wanted to talk about today? Those are the ones I wanted to jump on right away, where as this is what I was playing with. I was trying to get all those things done. I'm going to pull up a document because I think this might be worth talking about as well. I have some Q&A I did. Doing it as a consulting job, so I'm going to pull this up on the other screen. I'm not going to put it here because it's got the client's name in the header. We're not ready for putting clients' names online. I care a lot about people's privacy if you didn't know. Accounting, client documents. There we go. So we got pricing. We got here. This is a couple things when it comes to pricing strategies. I'm swinging back to some of the pricing stuff. Oh, you guys want to talk about VoIP? I'm not a VoIP expert. I mean, I'm more than willing to help and talk about it, but I don't know what to talk about it about. So, but well, let's let the crowd decide because you're all live. You're right here. I care about my audience. What do you guys want to talk about? So, throw suggestions out there. I can talk about MSP stuff and pricing, which was a great discussion I had with someone when I was doing some consulting. I can talk consulting, not insulting. We can keep playing with bash scripts and watch Tom muddle through things. That's something doable. You can watch Tom reboot a server because it's on my to-do list before I leave here today is reboot a server, which I don't think that's exciting, but maybe someone wants to see. So onboarding clients, MSP stuff. All right, I'm fine with that. Those are good topics. Onboarding clients. We'll start there because you've got to start with getting the clients. So diagnose and resolve high retry count with Unify APs. What should I expect? What should I not? So for a person starting an MSP job, I have no idea. Hopefully they have a job description for you. Depends on how organized they are and how good they are. That's all over the place. So yeah, analog trunk phone systems, they're a headache. I don't want to think about those no more. That part of my life is over. I used to be a Meridian admin. Look that up. I'm glad I don't do it no more. Onboarding and MSP stuff. So one of the things that the way we do MSP, and I have the video on this, one of the things that we do, do you just change every single password using that email? No. People figure out my email all the time. My email being on the dark web, who cares? It's on freaking YouTube. My email is. Anyways, when we onboard a lot of the clients, well, I've never onboarded a client that wasn't a project. Because a lot of people talk about, well, do you just onboard them? And I will tell you 99.9% of the time, it's a project. There's always a reason. First, there's a reason they called you. They didn't just wake up one day and go, I heard this MSP word, I seen it, and I'm calling you. Everything's working great. I just want you to manage my computers. It's just not how it works. It's rarely they have someone whispering in your ear. Now, it's cool if I'm dealing with startups, but I'm usually not. They usually don't have the budget for an MSP. They are doing everything on a shoestring and have a bunch of computers with no central server. That's generally how a startup starts. But there could be some magic that could happen where where you could have a startup that does go MSP. But that's pie in the sky, not likely to happen. Most every time you're onboarding, a couple factors. One, they called you because something broke. They called you because they had someone doing it and didn't do it right, which means there's a project. They called you because everything's on fire and they don't know where their data is, or their data's been pwned. They're in crypto locker mode. So there's always the beginning project for every time we onboard. Either it's a mess of unresolved issues from previous MSP, or it is the other side of it. It's just taking over a big fire. I know self-knowledge is helpful in the computer world. From your standpoint as a business owner, do you recommend going to college? I don't know. I have a video I did about going to college. I value knowledge greatly, but it comes down to your path. I don't know how you learn, and that's always my thing. There's no A/B testing. I can't say, what is it like if Tom went to college? What is it like if Tom didn't go to college? I know what it's like for Tom not go to college. That's all I can answer. So that's my very honest answer. I don't know that it's for everyone. But I don't say that it's, yeah. Certs are really well qualified. Look at the job you want to do and see what the requirements for it. And if a lot of the requirements for the job you want to do are certifications, go. Go get the certs. You're going to need them. They're a requirement for your job. Back to some of the onboarding. When you do some of the onboarding, like I said, there's always a project, but that project lets you get to know the client, lets you figure the client out. As you sort it out, if they're willing to go the MSP route at the same time, awesome. A lot of times they're not. And this is how our sales approach goes. They may not trust you, especially if they were just burned by previous either break fix IT or MSP. Either way, they were burned by them, so they're not exactly ready to sign some deal over to you. So that's just one of those things is, as I've seen Jason Briggs about Rig Solutions. Oh, yes, we see that there's all kinds of just disasters of hodgepodge. You know, years ago when we took over some of these clients, we had one of them, they were being charged a regular, I thought reasonable, it was a little higher than us, but a reasonable price for backups. They never did the backups. They charged that reasonable price within the same percentage as what we charge for backups, but they weren't doing them. And so when it hit the fan, it was a major problem for them, because it's like, yeah, they aren't doing any of the thing they said they're doing. It's just not happening. And that is definitely a issue that some of these people have, like this not doing those things. That is like the first there we go. So when you start onboarding them, there's just this whole thing. It's not like there's one cookie cutter checklist. You have to make a list, but that list is going to be, what are all the devices on the network? You're going to go through and do some, I like Nmap or ZenMap, and I start finding all the stuff. Do I require the client to replace hardware? That's a good question. I'll get to that. Tom's onboarding sounds like dating advice. You're entering into a relationship probably more complicated than, I don't know, maybe your dating life's weirder than mine, but it really could be like you're entering into an agreement in a relationship with that client to take care of their very personal matters of what's on their computer. So you are absolutely right. Yes, it is a dating relationship. So with that, we kind of look at things, and my deciding factor of whether or not I have to replace their hardware. One, do they just want new hardware? Maybe. Is there any reason? Is their hardware out of date, out of support, likely to fail? I have a client. We onboarded them as MSP. I have spoken vocally about my dislike for Sonic walls. I don't like them, but they had, they do have a Sonic wall. We took it over. We took over the Sonic wall. We dealt with issues with the Sonic wall. The Sonic wall finally is expiring, so now there's a project that'll happen next week of installing their new firewalls. Yay! It's really simple like that. So we leave it all in there, and it becomes just a project that gets kicked down the road. Now, that's also something not enough IT people are clear about. When we onboarded them, we went over, we reviewed. Some things had to be replaced because they were just really, really old. They had still some, 100 meg switches in there. So we put them all gigabit switches and things like that. And they went unify with the Wi-Fi. So we got all that. But when it came to the firewall, because they have multiple locations, VPN together, the VPNs were all up and running with SonicWall. They were all patched. nothing wrong. And they still had license warranty that lasts until February of 2019. So we told them by February of 2019, this is how much to replace all your firewalls at all your sites. This is the cost. This is what the project will cost. And we told them this 2 years ago. 2 years has come up. We remind them once in a while. Now that project has come to life. It's in their budget to go get it done. And you go do it. That's how it works. So it's not like I forced them to change it all. We also, in between, when we took them over, we had end of life for certain servers. We had end of life for certain other things. It all just became part of a large scale project plan. The client likes it when they work with you for this, because now from the beginning, you're like, oh yeah, you got this server that expires on these dates. Here's your one office that has a bunch of, at the time, Windows 7 machines. We should work on a plan to replace those. When do you want to put them on a timeline? And you start organizing things like that with your client. That's part of the onboarding process. But what you're doing is you're predicting future projects for the client. That will also give you a good feel, because they're like, oh, you're thinking about the future of us together. Our relationship will grow. You know, like it's like when you're dating and you talk about marriage eventually. So a lot of that onboarding is that. Now, I seen someone said, hey, I hope the previous IT people had a wiki. Cue that picture of, if everyone watched Dr. House, by just like the line he said, everybody lies. There's a reason they're switching to you. It rarely is a clean handoff. Don't trust the other guy's documentation. Check to see if the passwords work. Verify all of them. Verify the passwords. This is an onboarding thing. Verify passwords after you've identified all the devices. Verify that you can log into all the devices. Even though the guy goes, but his list looks so nice and organized. Yeah, I know. Well, do those passwords work? So, you know, they have 3 different copiers. They have a handful of whatevers, not just your standard tech devices, but like those other ancillary devices like copiers. Make sure you can get into all those. Make sure you can get into all the accounts related to them. If they have an on-premise thing, should we get a Sonic wall? Oh, I'm going to share this with the class here. This is funny. Open image, a new tab. So we have a Sonic wall here. You know, and I guess this is a good Sonic wall. This is my staff sending me messages. Anyways, sorry for the distraction. So we're not a huge fan of Sonic wall, but I might like that Sonic wall. But yeah, make sure when you do all of those things, that's an important part of it, so that you verified it. Because if you don't, if there's a problem with the copier 6 months after you took over the client, and that's the first time you tested that password, that's on you, buddy. You didn't do due diligence onboarding them. So do I have a timeline when equipment's replaced? Yeah, end of life. End of life is equipment. You can look up any piece of equipment. You can look for end of life on an equipment. For most companies, they have published end of life for devices. You know, if you look up, we'll even type in Cisco, CISO. Cisco has all these dates for things. So, you know, you have the whole Cisco service grid, analytics software, whatever it is. End of sales date, bulletins, Q&A, white papers. The other completely related to this is not just end of life, is whether or not there's known problems. Let's say they do have a company like Fortinet who, if I'm not mistaken, will not give you firmware if there's not a contract. So you check the firmware version of their Fortinet. You go, you know, this has a ton of security errata that's not taken care of. You either need to A, renew this license to get it up to speed, or B, replace it with something else that does allow firmware updates. What is Unify end of life like? Unify has a really by EOL list. Theirs is shockingly long. Like how long they support a product. That's the part I'm impressed with. Where is their list? Not as easy to find. The company hasn't been around long enough to kill off tons of products. So there's a few end-of-life products from Ubiquiti. Here's the page. It's pretty short because I'm really impressed with how long they support some of this stuff that's really old. So yeah, there are products that have been end of life, but man, they're supported for quite a number of years. I'm impressed with our own Unify stuff. We have some of it from 2013. It still is getting firmware updates. I just did a firmware update on a device I bought, which is now was 6 years ago, and that's great. I mean, 6 years on a Wi-Fi product, great. That's awesome. If you're looking for some industry marks, you're looking at a 4 to 5 year life cycle on servers. Varies with the market and things like that, and how much demand there is on that server. Like if they need cutting edge all the time, because if you work in the high end financial industry, they do 1 to 2 years on servers. But you look at hardware on networks, you can look between 5 to 7 years. But that becomes an exception too if the company's growing or has a higher data demand than normal because of volumes of data they move, because they're in a design industry. Some clients right now are switching things up to 10 gigabit, and we've been doing Cat 6A polls for a lot of clients because they're putting in more and more 10 gigabit equipment because of the nature of their business. That's what they need. You get clients saying, I don't care if it's end of life, it works, and I don't want to do spending. Yeah, there's always a balance of that for people who just don't want to spend money. When we do it, that's going to be a given. You just kind of work around that, and you just have to say, look, and these are my get out of jail free cards of, all right, here's my list. These are a list of things you said, and I send this back to them. And there's a fun psychology experiment that was done a while ago that I thought, I don't know how true these are. I heard this story, but it works in much the same way, where you kind of can tell the client, and you're being serious here, you're not trying to get money out of them. We're like, look, this is not there is not anything I can do to cover this product. It very likely is going to die. When it dies, here's the ramifications. You let them know, it's going to take this segment of your network out if it's a piece of network equipment. If it's a server, you're like, yeah, if the server goes, you have no backup, you have no redundancy of it. It's going to be this. That's life. But the psychology experiment was kind of interesting. Was trying to get people to move when there was the big flood coming down south. And one of the things they did was they said, no problem, you don't want to leave your house. Here's a marker we want to give you. We want you to write your name on each of your limbs. That way when we find the rest of you, we can put it all in one bag. It's fine, you don't want to listen to us. We'll do it this way. And I mean, you kind of have to let them know, this is serious, especially if they have security things that aren't being done. You can only push them to do stuff. We've had clients like that are non-managed break-fix clients that we've swung back around and had conversations about because they're just like, hey, I don't want to do these things. All right, you don't. But then they come up with a security problem or a breach or a big failure, and they're like, oh my gosh, I need to get this done. I'm like, yeah, remember when we said that? I'm not trying to say I told you so, but this is what we warned you would happen. We will take care of it. It's still going to be the same price, but now plus emergency services. So it's a game. I love when I have clients that are sky's the limit budget, but I live in a real world where that's not all of my clients. Yeah, some government stuff has to spend that. Academia is like that too. If you work in the academic world, if you're in the grant world, they have to use grants because they're earmarked for specific things. So if it's earmarked for hardware upgrades, they also have to use it during the period that it was earmarked for. So sometimes they replace stuff that may or may not need to be replaced, but they get it new anyways. So yeah. It varies by different market, different clients. We don't work in any one vertical, so there's a lot of things related to that. We rarely need to keep anyone's email passwords on file. It's just not really necessary. It's pretty rare. So much of our work, especially all of our managed clients, is they're having a problem with something, we're remoting into their computers. So we say, hey, I need your email password. I need that. And it's too hard to keep up with them all the time, and I don't want to keep up with them all the time managing their passwords. Someone asked about the wiki. I use MediaWiki. I have a video on it. I have a download of the VM. I'm going to be making a new VM pending time to get other stuff done. But yeah, a new VM is coming because there's been some changes and we updated ours. And I actually have different wikis I maintain. I maintain our production one And then in parody, I have a never had data in it one that we put together. Oh, and sorry about the music that's occurring because a Zumba class is going on next door. Besides my YouTube channel, what other types of marketing do you do, or is it just word of mouth? So I'm going to put together some marketing videos a little bit, but so much of it is word of mouth. Like your clients, happy clients are your best referrals. One, and I did videos on this. Go through all my business talks and you can put some of this together. I don't do paid referrals. There's a reason for that. Here's how it goes. Do you trust me to sell you a product that you know I make a really heavy commission on, or that I work for that company? So you should buy whatever product I have in my hand. Versus, hey, someone gets a call and they're like, hey, my IT, I got problems with my IT. Who do you know that does IT? Because business owners deal with other business owners very frequently, so they talk to each other. So yeah, once you start putting all that together and clients are talking to each other like that, it's better to say, oh man, Tom or Lawrence Systems takes care of our stuff. That's a solid referral. If that person thought that person was getting a kickback every time they sent it, less solid of a referral. You become, well, you're recommending them, but I know you get a commission. So that's why I don't do commission. So that's the first thing. Second thing is just got to ask your clients, hey, do you know other companies that could use services? Marketing to your clients for that kind of question works really well. The other places that marketing works well. Now, this is the B2B side of things. This is what I'm focusing on here, not the other ones. Yeah, Confluence is nice. I don't like it as much as I like the Wiki. I did try Confluence. We looked at it. I don't think Confluence is bad. I think it's a good choice for a lot of people. So I'll leave that there for the Confluence people. Atlassian makes nice software. So yeah, local chamber is really big. So Chamber of Commerce for us is good. There's also like BNI. There's other networking groups you can join. It's going to vary by where you're at. We have and this is my area, we have the Downriver Business Association. We have the Chamber of Commerce. By the way, I'll bring this up directly. And one of the things about Chamber of Commerce, if that's readable, whoops, go. You see it says, I know it looked funny on there. It says director. So director is a important aspect. I am involved. I'm on the board of the chamber to help make decisions with the chamber. So that is my level of involvement is very heavy. I've been in the chamber for 13 years, so I'm involved actively in projects. That's a lot of how we got our name out there. Now, I don't go to everything in the chamber as much. I've actually curved it down a little bit because I'm changing my focus, because I'm building up a slightly different business model. So my MSP is doing well. I'm getting a lot of referrals, but I'm building up more on this via YouTube. So that's a shift in my business. I'm not dropping anything MSP. I just stepped back a little bit on the chamber and marketing thing. Something unique about our chamber that I don't know how many other chambers do this, but its program is done really well for my chamber and very bad for BNI. There's no BNI groups in the area. There's very few, I should say. They're not non-existent. The reason why is because the chamber has their own version of BNI with all the network referrals, basically the whole concept. Yeah, Tom Lawrence and Chamber Secrets. So with that whole thing, the chamber having that referral network group and passing referrals and leads and things like that, there's no need for BNI because it's included with your chamber membership. And BNI's rules say you can't belong to more than one network referral group. At least they used to when I started with BNI a long, long time ago. The other thing about the BNI groups is make sure you get in the right BNI group. Some of them I've seen that are better than others. If they're not well run, then they can be not very fruitful for you. So that's always take time and assess that. The reality is, though, for B2B, when it comes to marketing through MSP or just IT in general, more things are done on handshakes, more things are done on in-person meetings than anything else. So that's like something to really think about. B2B here in 2019, as it was in 2018, and as it has been for the last, well, since humans interacted with each other in a business manner, it's still very much an in-person thing before a business trusts you with another business. I've said before, business is about a combination of serendipitous luck and hard work and making sure you're putting yourself in a position to find that work and find that luck. This bid that's in front of me right now, that is over $100-something thousand just for an infrastructure project, is a referral. From another IT company that I knew, that I've maintained friends with. How did I meet them? Let's spider this out a little bit. BNI, I think, stands for Business Network International. You can just Google BNI Group, Jordan, and you'll find them. But let's spider that out. How did I meet him? Well, I was at this networking event for businesses run by my friend. Well, he is just a guy who does some consulting work. We hit it off. He asked about business stuff for a little while. He says, I bet you'd know this other IT guy. Now, I'm the IT guy who runs out when a new IT company opens up and shakes the hand of the owner and says hi to them, welcome to the neighborhood. And that is what landed me working with him. And we've actually done a lot of business pass between each other. We're slightly different areas. He's going to be doing some of the IT side of this project when it's done. We're doing the infrastructure side because he's just not an infrastructure expert. So he's been contracting us for infrastructure. And that kind of healthy relationships where you do that has led us to a lot of business together. So but once again, this all kind of comes down to these in-person meetings, how you sell it, how you come and present to these clients, and how you speak to them. This is very, very important. This is why a lot of times salespeople or sales-ish people end up running IT companies, because there's not always a crossover between the sales person and the technical people, and that's perfectly fine. I look at companies like Microsoft. Bill had Steve Ballmer. Steve Ballmer was a sales guy. Bill was the geek at the company. Bill had some clever ideas, but that's obviously a Fortune 100 company we're talking about. But that same concept with companies, maybe you have to hire someone or you partner up with someone who's better people person and less technical, and you handle the more technical side. A very large MSP that we have, that's kind of their relationship as a partnership. There's a guy who's a little bit more sales oriented, and there's someone who's way more technical oriented, and that combination built a really successful company. If you're good at selling and you're good with people in general, you don't mind going out and knocking on doors. I never minded doing that to build my business and running around shaking hands. Hey, I'm Tom Lawrence. Let's talk about whatever. And I say whatever, not tech, because you can put people off real quick. I love talking about Bash script and Have I Been Pwned. I will tell you, most clients don't. You also have to present to them like how you're going to provide a solution to them and how you fit, because you're just one little piece of the pie. When I look at a transportation market that we work in a lot, transportation providers, yeah, my MSP bill, someone says, well, how do you sell it for that much or something like that? And I'm like, they are doing $40 million a year, but they also spend like 30-something million in fuel costs and things like that. So when you say it only costs them a few $1,000s a month for the MSP stuff, they're going, that's it? Okay. It keeps our computers running, because without our computers, we don't know where our trucks are. So, but you have to think of yourself as a component of their business. And so you don't monopolize their time. You kind of work with them and talk about your value that you provide. It's hard sometimes because some people don't value technology, and there kind of becomes a time when you go, I have to step away from you. You just don't like computers. We have a client who's break fix. Everything's a question that we know is going to be the answer of no, I'm not spending it. They still got Windows XP machines and they won't get rid of them. That's just how they are. They don't value technology. They just don't see it as a way to improve their business. So I don't work them over on the MSP. When something breaks, they call us, we fix it, and they spend money with us. They spend quite a bit of money with us. They always pay their bills, make me happy. But there's a waste of time trying to talk them into doing anything more than putting a Band-Aid over whatever's on fire today. So I did have a Marvin. He was my salesperson briefly. That didn't really work out. Marvin moved on, for those of you wondering. So no, at present, I do not have that. So I am the salesperson to the company. I'm working on figuring that out. It's good to do that. It's good to have a salesperson as long as you have a sales process. I did not have the best clear from the way I do it to how that translates into a sales process. And for those of you wondering, like, I know websites are important. And I get that. The other side of it, though, although websites are important, the other side of that is That's rarely how the clients find us. Like I said, so much of it comes down to that, and that's why it's important to have a sales process. You also, before you even start your sales process, do you have a product to offer? And even though you're a service company, do you have a product to offer? Do you have a solution to sell them? Do you have a price? Like, look, it's going to be this much, put your firewall in, this much, put your VPN in, this much to manage each of your computers. That's important aspects of things. If you don't have those ready, you can't get to the table of sales because you got to have solutions. You know, and this is when this is all done and gets accepted, I may do a video on what's sitting in front of me, like this larger bid, because there was a $40,000 discrepancy in this bid that had to be solved. And it had to be solved by understanding the way someone thought it should be done, and my opinion of how I can do it for a lot less with different equipment. So it's not like I just said I'm undercutting someone's price. I said this can be done differently and move your budget around. Those are just things you have to be able to do. You have to be kind of on your feet for it. You have to understand your numbers, understand your pricing, and you got to be someone who won't give it away. That's huge. So especially when you're starting out, you want to give it all away because you think, I'm just going to I always see these people, I'm undercutting everyone. I'm just going to do it way cheaper than everyone else. Well, that starts out as a one-man show, great. But then sometimes I end up watching these same people. How do you ever hire someone? I have no margin. I have all these clients, but no margin. I seen someone in one of the Facebook forums posting his annual sales, and he's trying to sell his company. And everyone's like, that number doesn't make your company sellable. Like, how many employees do you have? He's like, just me. I'm like, yeah, it's not sellable. It's you have a job, not a company. Not that I know I'm making what they call that gatekeeping, where you're going, well, you're saying he's got a job, not a company, but it's a legal business. I know it's a legal business, but the legal entity cannot operate. It has no process and procedures that allow it to operate with other than the one-man person because it doesn't have enough margin to hire a person to ever do it. So the company's at static growth. So you have to make sure you're able to do that. Now, the good news is for you people doing a one-man show, your margin should be, don't feel bad about this, really big as a one-man show. But if it's not, you'll never hire anyone. That's just how it works. It's how, yeah, they were confused how the other IT company was proposing it. Yes. One of the things I'm not going to show you the front side of this, but this bid, well over 6 figures, this is it. 2 pieces of paper. It only goes about halfway down on the second page. There's a reason for that. Despite this being a job that is that scope of just installing infrastructure one time, there's not that much detail, and this is all double-spaced, laid out. You know, it's not, once again, simplicity so they can understand it. That is an important aspect. I think I have a video on just how we do wiring bids, and I talk about how we break things down. I know I have a video on it. Type in, like, how we do wiring bids. Simplicity to the client so it's easily presentable. If they want the details, there's a entire... Wow, there's a spreadsheet that would be several pages of details of what came these numbers, but at the end, you take the parts and you put them in manageable numbers. With the MSP side, you're going to break down what we charge per computer, what we charge per server, and if we're handling licensing on a per person basis, we're going to break down what we handle in license fees per person. That's it. You have 3 line items there. They're not complicated. The numbers are easily adjustable. They go, if I add more people, this number gets adjusted. If I add more computers, this number gets adjusted. If I add more servers, this number gets adjusted. Now you've given the client your tooling to do the quotes. They know how they can adjust it. They understand it and decide what they want to cover and not cover. Currently 0 people on my staff. I think some in the past have, but 0 right now have networking certifications. Steve's a Cisco engineer without a cert because it just doesn't come up much. I don't have clients asking for it, so I don't ask for it. It's not something I put heavy emphasis on. I don't have any problems with certifications, and the reason so many companies, I think I have a video on this too, where I've talked about this, and I'll bring it up again. Many companies use it as kind of a gatekeeping method because if they said, I want a network engineer, and they don't put, I want a certified network engineer of specifically what they're looking for, like I want a Cisco guy versus I want a certified Cisco guy, it's sometimes to narrow down the amazing number of candidates that will fling at them. This is a problem. they get too many candidates. Someone has to sort through all the resumes and try to find people. Talent acquisition and understanding someone, interpreting a resume into, does it work in the real world? Are they able to do the job? Is a very difficult task from an HR standpoint. So they use things like this all the time to help filter that. So, oh, you want to talk to me about a wisp in Huron? Absolutely. Message me on that. That would be interesting. I'm assuming you mean Huron, Michigan. Or wherever you mean. I don't know. Wherever you're at, 0 hours. So, yeah, and I think James Biggs, sometimes there is a little bit more details. That's fine. Sometimes there's going to be more detail. It really kind of depends on the client. Some of them are really, really simple. Because these contractors were doing this infrastructure is, oh, Bill's friend. Yes, please. I would love, I know exactly who you are now. So let me know, and I have a fun opportunity that may get us partially paid for on that. I mentioned that to Phil. So I'll tell you what that means in more detail, but I think we can even get some funding for this to help make, it'll be fun. Starting a WISP, yes. I am all for that. Let's see. Yep, Phil has my Phil will give you my number. I've authorized that to let Phil know. I've messaged Phil before. I said reach out to me, so that's perfectly fine. For you guys that don't know, Phil is the co-host of the Sunday Morning Linux Review with me, and definitely a great person who's knowledgeable on a lot of things Linux and stuff like that. So, anyways, PF Blocker versus Suricata. Before I answer that topic there. Did I cover, I think, some of the MSP, the onboarding, client marketing, and a little bit about the stuff? Because I only have about another half hour. I don't mind talking for another half hour, but got to make sure I cover everything. If there's other questions, let me know. If not, I'll move on. I'll talk at least a little bit about PF Blocker versus Suricata. And it's not PF Blocker versus Suricata. That's actually a bad way to phrase it. It is PF Blocker and Suricata, why you should use both. They're two different animals altogether. So let's pull up stuff. Let's have a discussion. So PF Blocker. Hey, look, my ads come up. There's the package discussion, which I was looking for, and Suricata. Now, so PF Blocker is doing, we don't really do any imaging of PCs anymore. PF Blocker is, do you have any doing videos on Proxmox for so better graphics performance in Linux VM? I'm going to actually reference you right now to all the Proxmox videos and where they're going. LearnLinux.tv has tons of Proxmox videos and more coming. So let's go to LearnLinux.tv. This is Jay. And let's go here. Here's one of his latest Proxmox videos.
Hello and welcome.
So, in case you didn't notice, if that studio looks familiar and that server looks familiar, yes, that's absolutely my studio. Jay is a friend of mine, also co-hosts of Sunday Morning Review. He is doing all the Proxmox videos. He's doing lots of them. So I'm going to continue on doing XCP-NG videos. He is going to be doing all the Proxmox videos. He uses Proxmox. I use XCP-NG. He's highly knowledgeable, easy to talk to about it. Message him, contact him. So yeah. When it comes to imaging software, we don't do that much imaging. Occasionally we do some cloning. There's Clonezilla and things like that, but we don't do a lot of imaging. That's not really nuke and pave, hose and reload. We do that, but we're not really loading much for imaging software. But let's go back to Suricata intrusion detection systems. So when you look at something like Suricata, you're talking about doing intrusion detection. This is the analysis. This is doing some analysis on real-time threats. By the way, and before someone says Snort versus Suricata, these real-time threat analysis that you're doing is based on threats that come from the Cisco Talos group, because Cisco Talos owns Snort and the Snort feed, and both Suricata and Snort use the same feed. They just implement the feed in different ways to understand this. But this is trying to do intrusion detection, intrusion prevention. The difference between IDS and IPS is one's active, one's not. One goes, hey, here's the thing that's going on you might want to look at. Other ones is stop that, because your rule says if this thing occurs and we match this rule, we want to block it. All right. Don't know who's calling me, but that up. There we go. All right. He has my cell phone number already. So I got that. So all right, we're good. The person who knows Phil is I did authorize Phil to give you my cell phone. You're perfectly fine. I sent a message back. Anyways, back to the program. So this is using the VRT rules from here, from Proofpoint, and it pulls these ones here, the Talos rules, which are being updated all the time. This is intrusion detection. Like I said, this is still a reactive system, but most breaches are from active threats that are existing, not 0 days. 0 days are more likely, not all the time. If there's a 0 day out there, it's sold for a lot of money. Matter of fact, Zermodium. Zermodium payout. There we go. So if there's 0 days, they're not likely to be used against you unless you have a 3-letter agency after you. But let's talk about, when they talk about these, their payouts are in the million. Here we go. If you can crack a 0 day on Apple, it's a $2 million payout. A Windows 0-click one is $1 million payout. They have all these broke down on Zermodium. So the reason I'm bringing this up and how it relates to Suricata, they're not likely to be flinging this 0 day out there, because once you fling it out there, it creates background noise on the internet. Someone who's a security researcher finds this noise and starts creating rules to stop that noise and create a block rule for it, because, hey, we figured out what this is and doing that. That's why these are worth so much money, is because they're using very targeted attacks, so they're not very noticed on the internet. And there's an interesting, Steve Gibson was just doing a review of Zerodium and their entire exploit acquisition program. I don't know where it falls on the moral spectrum anymore. This is really interesting, the fact that they buy that. So, yeah, that's very. It's interesting. Anyways, so 0 days are not the most likely. So yes, you can get some protection from there. Now, PF Blocker on the other side. PF Blocker is blocking things based on DNS feeds. So yes, they're using actually some different IQ risk, professional IP subscriptions you can put in there. They've just got all these different rule sets that bring in, so you can do geo blocking of IPs. I've got a whole video on breaking this. So these are all very important aspects. As what you do is you're building your security in layers. One of the layers is going to be I block IP addresses that come into my network. Because if you're hosting something, you want to block them so they can't come into your network remotely. There's no reason, like we self-host Invoice Ninja, we self-host Screen Connect. Because we're self-hosting those things, the visibility from the outside world is invisible on anyone who's geo-fenced outside the US. We lock them down, you don't get to see it. And it's 99.8% accurate, so that's that many less IPs that could potentially, it doesn't necessarily stop an attack, it just means less likely that they can attack. So I've reduced the threat surface. Combine that with Suricata, which I have active blocking on my server, I've once again reduced the threat surface even more. If you can figure out a commonality of IPs for those OpenVPN random IP connections, from that, yes. One of the things I did the other day was that video on what Suricata and PF Blocker miss and how I block things. Sometimes they come through because they're not doing anything nefarious enough to cause a problem. Just weird. Weird is a precursor because they're poking. If it results in a problem, like my log files just showing me that someone hit 50,000 times on my web server to the point of it raising the load, but they didn't send any data to catch it through Suricata. It's a US IP address. It was in New York. I had to block it. That's what my video is on. So it's really tricky. Now, blocking them on X wrong attempts gets really tricky too. I don't know. Actually, let me look this up. That's called fail to ban VPN. The way you figure it right here, this is the software you want to use, is if there's too many, you could use fail to ban to block them after so many. So that's definitely an option out there if they're doing that. Yeah, block, and that's what we do with the geofencing. We block IPs with country codes like China, Russia, and India. Another way to do, in general, you set this up on a lot of your internal servers, and we use this too. Fail to ban when they're trying to do something like log in. You hook fail to ban in on any of the SSH ports and things like that, and you just start blocking people who are doing things that they shouldn't be doing, trying passwords and stuff like that. By the way, if you have SSH open or if you're using OpenVPN, it should never be just username password. It's username password certificate all the time. So yeah, that's an important there. Yeah, we don't do really any business in India, so India's on our block list. Europe is actually on our block list, but we open up exceptions on an as-needed basis. So we whitelist IPs in Europe kind of as needed. We have no one hired us yet out of India. So we've done work all over Europe and even some in, I think we did one in Israel not that long ago. But we didn't do anybody in India, so we haven't had to really unblock them. So yeah, so it only kind of depends on whether or not there is a need for that traffic to be open. I default to close it all and I open it as needed. That's just an easier way to go. It just reduces the amount of potential IPs that would probe your system. It's not really, like I said, an automatic, you're just safe. You're just less IPs that can probe your system, less likely for attack. But then still some of them go through and do weird things because they're trying something. I don't know. They weren't on any list anywhere. They were just hitting my website repeatedly. I don't know why. And I blocked them. And like I said, I did a video about that. So that's kind of the difference between, whether you're talking Suricata, and like I said, you can use Snort as well. Suricata/Snort and PF Blocker. One's doing DNS and the other one's doing, and of course, doing DNS and IP blocking versus this is doing active looking at the streams and do that. Yes, I require, all of our contract work I require to be paid in advance. We do lots of Unify setups, VPN setups, and random firewalls and FreeNAS consulting, and we've worked with people's XCP and G servers. Pretty much anything you've seen on this channel, at one point or another, we've done some consulting work with. Even we just actually solved some G Suite problems for another client where G Suite users were good. Matter of fact, we've done email migrations, we've done Office 365 subs, anything we can do remotely that doesn't require us to be physically there. But there is a requirement that we get paid up front. That's a non-negotiable terms of our agreement to do remote work. Got to get paid. I have no way of recourse of not getting paid. So people hire us to do things. We're very reputable, and we send them a bill. We negotiate what does it cost. It costs this. I give you a price based on the scope of work. You decide whether or not it is reasonable. And if you say, I think that's reasonable, I send you an invoice. You pay the invoice, we schedule the time, and it gets done. That's just how it works. And that's been doing really well for us. Matter of fact, like you said, I've been growing my business a lot with that, leveraging all the knowledge we have of Unify and things like that. That's also one of the reasons that my YouTube channel has been very light on any type of real sponsorships. And we have some affiliate links. I love it when you guys click that. I get a few dollars. That's awesome. We have some T-shirts. We have a couple of those things. They throw a few dollars our way. It does help because it's a lot of work maintaining all this channel and producing all these videos. But our biggest thing like we get from YouTube is that versus if so I've seen people say, well, I'll throw Linus out there because he's the biggest one out. But yeah, my staff should do a dance video that my neighbor beats. No. But one of the bigger things out there is like Linus. Well, he doesn't have an other business model. His business model is making entertainment videos and talking about technology as it relates to things. Therefore, he has always, let's talk about this sponsor, that sponsor, this sponsor. He always has to be seeking out sponsors because that's his monetization model. So Have you ever used Team Treehouse for learning code? I have not. Never heard of them before this moment. That being said, I will admit we will be, because I'm looking at, because it just, of the cost of maintaining the channel and the time it takes me to do it, I kind of have to at some point get someone to sponsor. But we're looking for someone who's aligned with us and is going to be an interesting one to use. So Team Treehouse, never heard of them. Learn to code, gain a new skill, get a new job. I've actually thought about reaching out to these people even. IT Pro TV, they seem kind of aligned with, like, we would have a common audience. I've heard Udemy's good too. These people do IT training certs, and they seem to be pretty reasonably priced. And I've heard really good things about them as a company. So we might be looking at some of these as potential, like, people we align with and offer, you know, it helps out the channels. Maybe you're going to sign up with one of these things anyways, you know, having, wanting to learn and further your certs and things like that. So yeah, Udemy, there's all these ones. You know, I try to think of myself as a learning channel, sharing a lot of tech knowledge for things. So there's, aligning myself with some of these other companies as potential sponsors might work out well. I don't really want to align myself with any one product company, and either one is finding something that's like aligned that our audience is interested in, that's also a reputable company, is very important to me, versus aligning myself with any product companies, because products are fickle, they can change. So when it comes to VPNs, go to, I'm going to plug myself here. We use PIA. My demos have done with PIA. They seem like a reputable VPN service. So if we go to things we love, affiliates we love, I'll throw my affiliate links in here if anyone wants to click them. Throw this in here. There we go. I hear my staff yelling through the wall. I don't know what they said. It's going to take 10 seconds for them to hear this and then yell back through the wall. PIA is in 14 eyes. Why is PA in 14 eyes? I don't know what that means. Oh, that. Okay, I was reading this. Sorry for my pause here. I see what you're saying. Here's the problem with any VPN, and this is, I have someone emailing me and I don't know how to help them at all, because they're like, oh, I want ultimate privacy, and I'm like, you have to not be on the internet. The only thing a VPN does is tunnel your data from here to the VPN. So no matter what internet company you want for VPN, I don't care if they're in Sweden, wherever, you're saying you trust that company with your data. You're now tunneling it, so you're hiding everyone in between, and that's it. You're just changing who you trust. So EFF, what is that? They have a cool demo on here. Here we go. I like the way this demo works. Who can see your data, whether it's HTTPS or Tor? You know, so we'll do it as it's a fun little thing you can play with on the AFF here. You can replace Tor with VPN, so to speak, and say, so my ISP still sees, well, they're going to see you going to Tor, but you kind of get the idea. When you add a VPN, you're only hiding some of the people in between. The website still knows who you are. They track it back to the VPN. You're trusting that the VPN company isn't doing something else with your data. So, yeah, you really want a VPN for what reason? You got to start with that. You know, you really want to block your ISP. Fair enough. Then buy a VPN. But that's it. You're done just moving the trust. You're saying, I don't trust the ISP, but I trust the VPN provider. That's what you're really saying when you get a VPN. So, FreeBSD is going to rebase CFS, CFS and Linux. Any idea whether I can reuse FreeBSD pool and Linux? I have no idea if there's going to be any differences between them. I always run I don't run ZFS on Linux. I know there's some issues. I know it works. I at least have heard people say there's issues. I always run BSD in FreeNAS. I don't run it independently. I don't run it as a standalone, I run it in FreeNAS. So I don't really have answers for that. CloudKey 2.0, any good? Have you played with it yet? I have not. I also am not a big CloudKey person. I mean, they're nice, they work, but I prefer controllers. Matter of fact, a client we're migrating right now, I seen an email pop up from him because I had a question about it. We put him, he has 7 cloud keys at 7 locations, I think it's 7. But we're migrating them all. I built this cloud controller in DigitalOcean, and I'm just moving it all there. So, because, I don't know, he's had problems with the cloud keys and things like that, and little issues. I just like it all in one controller, especially if you have multiple sites. If you're just a home user, I think the cloud key's awesome. It's a great way to get started. If you have a business and you have a server to put it on, even better. If you go spend $5 a month, you can have a DigitalOcean location and have everything up there in the cloud. So, yeah, hopefully that is helpful on some of that. Let's see what else we got. I'm running out of time. In the final minutes here, what are the questions you have? What are the final questions you've been wanting to ask Tom on this live stream so I can answer? What is the burning question? Let's see. Anything in the forums? Please do participate in the forums. I will say that. RStudio is still a good tool. I like it, but yeah, wait till you have the PC you're going to commit it on. There's stupid licensing. I wish there was an open source alternative to them, but there's not that I'm aware of. Anyway, any recommendation on where to store Unified Camera Feed other than CloudKey Gen 2? Build a server. Favorite Linux distro right now? I'm still a huge fan of Pop! OS. I love Pop! OS. I know it's just Ubuntu skinned. So yes, I know it doesn't derive dramatically from Ubuntu. That's also kind of why I like it. It works really well, and it's very much like Ubuntu, and I like Ubuntu. So yeah. What do you like eating hot sauce with the most? Everything. Potatoes are probably my favorite. We do a lot of potatoes. Potatoes and hot sauce, hands down, always a favorite. So definitely there. What else we got here? RStudio works well, but yeah, just wait. Yeah. So, what does my org chart look like? It's kind of flat. I don't really have one. It's good. All my staff. I mean, it does fork, especially matter of fact, that's what's drawn on the bottom of the sheet is all the forking for when we're doing infrastructure. Infrastructure forks more. But more or less, I own the company. Steve is more or less like a vice president of the company, so things go to Steve, and then Steve. Not that they don't report to me; they report to Steve, and they report. I don't know. I don't even know if they really report. It's not really reporting. We just all have tasks, and we're all doing them because that's how it works. When we get bigger, I'll let you know. So there's like 8 of us here. For those of you wondering. I have definitely drank hot sauce with nothing. That's definitely a thing. That definitely, that's always fair enough. So I wonder if you stick with VM or can you transfer it? Not. No, I don't know how well it would work in a VM. And a reason why is because it's using raw, it's doing a complete raw access of the hard drive. So that's one why I like running it in Linux. 2, why I don't know if it would work well in a VM unless you can run it in a VM, but you'd have to do like some type of hardware pass-through of a controller to make it work properly. Do you have a VM to text script for free PBX? What is a VM to text script? I don't understand what that means. Virtual machine to text. Do you offsite backup for Unify for your controller? Yes, I'm going to do, and I started it and I didn't finish it. I'm going to do a whole I have an old one and it hasn't changed dramatically, but yes. Oh, voicemail to text. Okay. There is no voicemail to text script. That I know of, it's a purchase thing. I don't know any way to do it for free. It takes money to translate those. If anyone knows of a free one, let me know. I'm not aware of any. All the ones I've seen are paid for voicemail to text. Why don't I use AWS? We do. I have an AWS account, so there's things in AWS. There's things in DigitalOcean. I say DigitalOcean because for maybe the audience here, it's easier for them to get started at $5 a month with a droplet. But yeah, I have an AWS account too. You can put things in AWS. I have an Azure account too with things in it. So pick one. I'm cloud agnostic. I'm cloud everywhere. Yes, I've heard of Zential. I've never used it, so I don't have an opinion on it. This goes back to I don't have a use case, and I'm not always a big fan of, I don't know, easy to use affordable Linux server for SMB. Maybe every time I've tried these, they've always not worked well. It's been years since I've tried one. I know Zential was something else when I did try it. It just was buggy, and it didn't do that well for clients. Small business, maybe they have a little FreeNAS server in there, or even, a Synology or something like that. Big companies, it's Windows Essential Server. As they get a little bit bigger, is still less than 25 employees. Once they go that full Windows Server Active Directory, or as someone pointed out earlier in the live stream here, Azure AD. Do they even need a server? We have a lot of clients that are serverless because all of their applications are in the cloud. Matter of fact, check this out. This is one of our clients just moved to. They moved to an on-prem to an entire. This is a big law firm. They do all their entire management system all in a what do you call it? All in a cloud-based system. Matter of fact, they're using Laravel. It looks like Invoice Engine. It's pretty cool. So yeah, I mean, there is the Google Cloud form that has speak to text using Google's API. There's an expense associated with it. So I mean, it's not that you can't use it, but you can if you're doing the voicemail like that. That's a thing. But with everyone going to cloud, like more and more things are always a cloud-enabled thing. We're seeing less and less companies with servers. Remember, we're seeing companies with servers. Their migration path isn't a new server. Their migration path is sticking it in the cloud because it's just easier to manage. It's easier to work from home, and it changes the way you access things. So I think this is kind of like another, hey, we bundled it all together. It should work well, but yeah, I don't know. I don't have a need for it, or neither do my clients. So it's why I haven't done a lot of testing with it. What else was in here? Watson, IBM, voicemail. I will do the whole disaster recovery planning thing, though, and how we do things and how we move data back and forth off site, because we do a lot of it. We do snapshots of our systems. We do some hourly snapshots. There is a lot of different things we do related to it. So there's a lot of different components to it, but there's always to make sure that I also, and probably what I'm going to do is do a BDR solution demo, because, you sell clients things, like we sell clients different servers, different solutions. A lot of people in the MSP space are very familiar with Datto, but I'm going to talk about how Datto works a little bit too, but also how you can kind of build your own Datto solution too. I have a whole video planned on this topic, so I think it'd be really interesting. I don't really deal with Mac though, so yeah, feel free to look at my GitHub account. I may be ashamed of some of the code in there. I'm not a great coder. When I'm a little more focused and not talking, I'm much better. What made you be so open about things you do in your business? Just I'm an open source fanatic. So I'm just how I am. I don't think things should be secret. I think ideas are cheap. Execution's everything. Like that's, everyone has ideas. Everyone's talked about ideas and all this other stuff right there. Execution's everything. I can give you the roadmap to everything I did as a business. It doesn't mean you'll take my customers. Why? It comes down to execution. You take 3 different IT companies, compare their websites. If they're in the same market space, you'll find, oh, look, they just say a different way, but they all do the same things. It comes down to execution. Execution's everything in it. So just telling you how I do it is not the same. Matter of fact, I like the open discussion, and I've worked in open source for over 20 years now. Open source didn't take over the world by accident. It's just a better methodology. By sharing the knowledge and putting the value on the people who execute the ideas, You get a better overall product, you get a better overall experience, and by having these open discussions with people about their businesses, and I get ideas from them. It's not you got to dump all the data out there, and people go, huh, I can help you with that. I can help you with this component, and then I'm helping them with maybe another component they didn't understand. So that's why I'm always open about everything I do. Cloudberry and Wasabi. I've done a review of Cloudberry. Great product. I really like it. It's one of the solutions we do implement. I have not used Wasabi, but I'm aware of it. I haven't tested it. Hey, awesome, Justin Bryan. Love it. We use both. I haven't used it. I don't know how to say that. Dahoo. I've used it. Plenty of Hikvision cameras. We've used a lot of Ubiquiti. The school systems are really deep into the Hikvision cameras. Just nature of it. So a lot of the schools we use Hikvision. A lot of places use it. I do like the Ubiquitis. When I'm selling a small business system, Ubiquiti with their camera system works great. I've done plenty of reviews on them. Still deploy them. We're still happy with them. They work well. They've been innovating and working on that, and it's been good. Matter of fact, we monitor our office. Whoops. That over here. Even our office is managed with Ubiquiti cameras. Damn it. Caps lock's on. There we go. So you want to see what it looks like outside of our store right now? It's snowing. Got a little snow. So yeah, we use Ubiquiti cameras in our office. So that's the thing. We trust them enough that we use them. Hold on. Or else I make sure there's no customers. There's no customers up there. There, close that. There's our. Oops. Let's go to the live feed. There you can see what's going on in the front lobby. So it looks like in the lobby of our office. There you go. Have you used Vivotech? I don't think so. They don't sound familiar. There's so many of them out there that are random. Hikvision is kind of popular in the market. I know there's a ban against them for some of the government. There's a lot of them out there. The other solution we use is, the name eludes me. I've talked about it before. What else do we got in here? Datto StorageCraft. I started to open up the StorageCraft website. They're a competitor for Datto. They do the same thing, full continuous data protection, shadow protect, blah, blah, blah. We do a lot of this using this. Once everything's virtualized, you can do the same thing. You can create easy snapshots of things. You can do migrations and rollbacks and things like that. Delta backups. I've done a video in depth on this, but I'm going to do a video specifically on use cases. So, StorageCraft used to be the back end for Datto. Doesn't Datto, if I'm not mistaken, still using a custom Linux Linux ZFS solution? So, yeah. Are you dropping client data in-house? If so, what method? What do you mean, dropping client data in-house? We don't back up the data here. It's just too big. We use mostly SolarWinds is our real popular solution for client data. So I guess I need a clarification on what you're asking. Are you doing high availability? No, we aren't doing HA on ours. No, we don't do backups. Our client's data does not back up to here. Are you doing any high availability on XCP? No, I only have 2 servers. So if you look at my pool, that is referred to as the puddle, it only has the 2 computers in it. So when we look at the hosts, there's only 2. Because there's only 2, you can't do HA until you get 3. And this is a method. You also still have to have shared storage. So shared storage becomes your weak point. So then you have to double up and do redundancy on your storage if you really want a true HA solution. So something to think about. I'm going to do some videos on some of that. No, I've not tried their new cloud key. Matter of fact, here, right there. W9 Unified. This is my Unified VM that runs my cameras. All of it runs in a VM, so I don't really have to do it. Do I back up VMs between the two? I'm going to get in detail about that in a video. And if I have time, I may do that video tomorrow morning. Because yes, I do, but not the way, there's a strategy to it. And because I'll get way off topic and I'm not going to ruin the video. I just don't have time to talk about it in depth because I have to leave here in a minute. So yes, I do back them up between there. I do keep hot backups, and I'll talk about strategies for how to do that with 2 servers. Because this is stuff we're actually doing for our clients with pairs of XCP and G servers too, where they have a primary and a backup, and a local storage place where we keep the snapshots. So they have one server with its built-in storage, and those are the scenarios I'm going to walk on. I'm going to be not too in-depth, but some in-depth explaining on it and concepts of how you can build this and set it up for redundancy. Yeah, Hikvision had old. Oh man, we took over. I got to give a proposal tomorrow morning too for an IT project. All the passwords are at default in admin. That's a whole different topic. I kind of sometimes when you're taking over, you take advantage of all the backdoors, the default passwords everywhere. It's frequently, like I said, when you're taking over IT, you're taking over because they weren't doing a good job. So not doing a good job usually meant they didn't change any passwords too. Sometimes you get lucked out where everything is at default. The new client we took on Tuesday, everything, I went to his office, fixed the minor issue. I got to give him a proposal. Every password was the default password. Nothing wasn't not default. It was easy. So I was like, I'll stop by and take over. No, it was like, oh, this is easy. He's like, you got all the passwords? How'd you get them so quick? I'm like, they're all the default. So it was like admin 1, 2, 3, 4 everywhere. So yeah, that happens. Anyways, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, participate, continue the conversation in the forums. Hire us for things you want us to do. What server is Zen running? Zen server, XCP-NG. So I don't really understand the question. I have a whole lot of this turnkey open source hypervisor XCP-NG. I'm a big fan of this project. Yes, I know I've heard of Proxmox before 20 people. If you want to learn about Proxmox, go head over to learnlinux.tv. He is a Proxmox expert. And with that, I shall leave you a good night. Oh, what hardware? It's a Dell, dude. Yeah, R710. I still never replaced our whole Dell servers. Ain't broke, don't fix it. I have a couple R710s that work. One day I'll have new ones. That's not today though. Not on my buy list. Yeah. All right, man. Take care.